This was a crazy moment, by the way. Now we're getting to domestic fascism, colonialism turned inwards. Here in the United States of America, the Trump administration has sent the Gestapo police force to target a Hyundai facility, a Hyundai factory. And in the process, they arrested and detained hundreds of South Koreans, apparently.
It looks like troops heading into war, but this is President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown in action. Hundreds of federal agents descended on a small southeast Georgia community and raided a sprawling plant, taking away hundreds of workers in hard hats and high-vis jackets, most of them from South Korea.
They claim that these are visa overstayers and therefore illegal immigrants.
Some running into a sewage pond. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, say they were working illegally. Around 475 were arrested. South Korea's foreign minister vowed to support them.
Our president emphasizes that in the course of US law enforcement, the rights of our people and the economic activities of...
Dude, that change is so dehumanizing, and it's so incredible that they're doing it to like dudes that are working in a factory. Doesn't matter if they're Guatemalan, doesn't matter if they're Mexican, doesn't matter if they're Venezuelan, doesn't matter if they're South Korean. It is like there is no necessity for this, okay? Because at most, remember, this is a civil violation. It's a matter of paperwork. If the solution to this quote unquote problem, which is not even a real problem at all, is just like born out of hysteria. But if the solution to that is just simple paperwork, you shouldn't be chaining these people. What the fuck?
South Korean investors in the US must not be unjustly infringed upon.
Trump believes migrants are stealing jobs from Americans. But the raid highlights a potential clash between two Trump priorities, boosting US manufacturing and cracking down on immigration. The president, though, was unfazed that the raid would jeopardize a recent pledge from South Korean companies to invest billions of dollars in US industry.
Well, for the record, everything is out of whack here because someone said Hyundai too. They use child labor in multiple places throughout Alabama. Terrible company. I remember because I covered it extensively at the time. This is true. Child workers were found throughout the Hyundai Kia supply chain in Alabama. Okay, this is true. Part of the cleaning crew were undocumented migrants, and many of those undocumented migrants were children. What's important to recognize here is who is responsible for this crime and who is the victim. But because of our hyper-capitalist dystopia that we exist under, we treat the victims as though they are the real criminals, and we choose to treat the actual criminals, which would be Hyundai in this circumstance, as simply a victim of being duped by these criminal children. It's not the Hyundai executives that are in chains in the aftermath of a raid such as this one. It's the South Korean migrant workers that are in chains. They are the ones who are being sent to detention facilities. Hyundai executives and Hyundai profit seekers, however, get nice deals from the Trump administration. Do you understand? It's completely backwards. This is what I brought up with the raids that were conducted on that former cop, that like ex-police officers, marijuana plant facility or whatever, right? They were just like, they were arresting and apprehending the migrant children and all of the undocumented migrants and documented migrants alike, rather than the actual criminal in that process is like knowingly hiring the kids. If the penalty for hiring undocumented employees is a simple fine, that's a write-off. It doesn't even matter. It's in the grand scheme of things, and the way that these guys look at it is that it is far more favorable for them and for their profit margins to continue hiring undocumented employees, knowing full well that they're undocumented. They hire them because they're undocumented, because they can use and abuse them and discard them by calling ICE on themselves in many instances. And then they just go back and hire more undocumented employees, oftentimes from these same communities.
We want to get along with other countries, and we want to have a great, stable workforce. And we had, as I understand it, a lot of illegal aliens, some not the best of people, but we had a lot of illegal aliens working there. So, you know, look, they're doing their job.
On the same day, workers were being marched out of a plant in New York too. ICE officials took away 70 employees from the family-run facility. The owner claimed all his workers were legally employed. From farms to construction, kitchens to garages, workplace raids are sweeping.
This is the problem I think at its like most basic understanding, this is the problem with launching an entire campaign off of a lie that immigrants are scary, dangerous, and don't actually participate in the economy. When you whip up people into believing this hysteria because you are not actually invested or interested in fixing some of these issues that people are experiencing, like the fucking housing market situation, right? People just like can't pay for housing. They become homeless, or crime born out of people's material circumstances, poverty. When you're not invested in doing that, and you want to just like distract people with a militant approach towards some of the most vulnerable people in this country, and you beef up this white supremacist hysteric narrative, white supremacist hysteria surrounding migrants being an ever-present danger, your solutions are also going to, once again, be incredibly violent, incredibly cruel, and also harmful to the economy in general. That's it. That's what happens. If your whole worldview and your legislative agenda revolves around a lie that you designed for yourself, a completely racist, made-up, hysterical situation, then you, of course, are going to end up creating solutions that are simply exacerbating the major problems that you're avoiding altogether. The major problems that you're avoiding to solve are economic problems. So this is nothing but a violent, cruel distraction.
In America, but this one in Georgia is the largest of its kind. And entire cities are bracing for mass raids too. In Chicago, parents dropped off their kids for school on Friday, while teachers handed them flyers, not for a bake sale, but for their legal rights if ICE came calling. There's a major crackdown expected in the city on undocumented migrants. Residents say they're preparing for an invasion, not from enemies, but from their own government.
This morning, as the Chicago area braces for a surge in immigration enforcement.
For Homeland Security, we have a search warrant for the whole site.
On Friday in Georgia.
We need construction to cease immediately. We need all work to end on the site right now.
This video, posted on social media by a local activist, shows the Department of Homeland Security raiding a Hyundai plant.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is yet another anti-Biden spy policy. This Hyundai factory is seen as a Biden IRA EV tax credit victory. Is this going to be one of the biggest battery plants in the world once fully operational? In that way, it's the exact kind of investment Trump says he wants to attract but hasn't done so yet. I don't know what I just don't understand what the purpose of this is beyond just like sheer cruelty for the purpose of cruelty alone. That's it.
In fact, was the largest single site enforcement operation in the history of Homeland Security investigations.
The video inside of a construction site at their electric vehicle plant in the community of Elabel. 475 people taken into custody, most of them South Korean nationals.
This investigation is focused on...
By the way, this should be a somber reminder for Asian Americans who might have found themselves in the throes of reactionary sentiment, that while many people think that they might be a part of the minority group that has like some kind of closeness to whiteness, you are still ultimately not seen as white. You are not a part of the in-group. There is no such thing for these guys. There's no such thing as like a good immigrant, okay? That's it. Some racists, as I've seen here, are like, bro, why the fuck are we deporting Koreans when there are entire villages of Somalians up north? That's some reaction. Okay, but this whole like model minority myth is concocted in a way to use like some marginalized populations or minority groups as a shield to do white supremacist nonsense. Ultimately, this is why class politics is a far better way to understand the ways in which commodity production works under capitalism, because that's what this is.
Ensuring accountability for those who violate the law and uphold the rule of law.
Hyundai saying those detained at its site actually work for a network of subcontractors who have been building a battery plant. Also this week, outside of Syracuse, New York, federal agents moving into this food manufacturing plant. The owner saying he thinks all 69 workers detained are legally allowed to work in the U.S., and some are already back at work. And today in Chicago, there are signs of what could be on the way here. Boarded up windows at Nice Processing Center where detainees could be held.
Pray for these men and women to have compassion.
A prayer service outside of a naval station, ABC News has learned, is expected to house federal agents, and fencing outside of the federal building.
They're just grabbing people. Everyone I know is scared. People are nervous to walk their kids to school.
President Trump indicating a federal surge is coming to Chicago, possibly today, but he won't confirm timing.
We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country.
Chicago leaders fear their city will be impacted like Los Angeles was in June, where ICE operations led to large protests and violence in the streets. National Guard and active duty Marines were called in by President Trump there. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says National Guard troops are not needed here.
Part of their kind of nefarious plan is begin with ICE, cause mayhem on the ground, and by doing that, say that there's a need for military troops on the ground.
Yeah. Donald Trump today also posted some insane shit about this. He posted about how, he's going to militarily invade Chicago like it's sweet, like it's cute. But I want to, before we get to that further, I want to show you the New York Times piece on the ICE job fair in Arlington, Texas. This was actually a really interesting piece that I read, but this is the video version of it.
Recruitment fair for ICE. I want to talk to folks and see who wants to be a deportation officer and why.
I'm a college student,
recently graduated.
A former flight attendant.
I did 8 years in the Marine Corps.
Doors haven't even opened yet, and already there's a line of more than 100 people waiting to get in. ICE saw this event advertised on ICE's social media account. The benefits they're offering are pretty extensive. There's an up to $50,000 signing bonus, $60,000 in student debt reduction, up to 25% overtime rate. The Trump administration is adding tens of billions of dollars to the budget and is trying to make immigration enforcement really the center of law enforcement in this country right now. The lines have been the longest for deportation officers. That has the lowest bar to entry. College degree is not necessarily required, and ICE is trying to hire 10,000 deportation officers. What were the attractions of working for ICE?
I'm very patriotic.
You know, guarding America, guarding the homeland.
When I saw Uncle Sam pointing that finger, I just had it in my heart. And you're thinking, look at this guy, he's an immigrant. He wants to become a deportation officer. Doesn't make any sense to you, makes 100% sense to me.
We're seeing a bit of the speed and scale that the Trump administration is trying to move at. They're moving people in and out assembly line style. They're offering drug testing on site, and they're even saying that you could walk out of here with a tentative offer letter to start a new job at ICE. There's a lot of criticism of ICE and its tactics in enforcing immigration law. You can hear the protesters behind me shouting at applicants as they walk in, calling them Nazis and fascists.
Because they are Nazis and fascists, straight up. They are the Gestapo. The only saving grace of everything that's unfolding is how utterly incompetent this administration is at actually following through on any of their agenda items, and they end up failing spectacularly in broad daylight. So that's our only hope. Beyond consistently pressuring this admin, the only other thing that we can hope for is how unimaginably incompetent they are. But yeah, this is a great point as well. Imagine getting a $50,000 signing bonus to join the Gestapo, the secret police of the Trump administration. Meanwhile, teachers don't get paid that much in one year, dude. This shows you where the priorities are. You seem to be falling into the maybe he got sick syndrome. What do you mean? I'm not saying that maybe Donald Trump got sick and he'll die. I'm saying that given what I know about the way that these guys have tried to implement certain initiatives and failed to do so in spectacular fashion, it's not unlikely that they will also fail in this situation as well. They will not be able to fully implement. I mean, Mahmoud Khalil is a great example of this, where they bite off more than they can chew. But yeah, this was another part of the piece. People are apparently joining ICE recruitment fairs out of desire to specifically deport and beat up Indian employees of IT firms based on inflammatory information gleaned from memes. Tucker has also seen news stories and images on social media showing masked ICE officers aggressively taking immigrants into custody, and heard the concerns that the agency is violating people's constitutional rights. But he said those reports don't move him. Things are posted for certain reasons, Tucker said. You can see the same story on different channels, and there are different narratives. On social media, you are going to get stories that fit what you want to believe based on the algorithm. You'll never get the true story. Reports of rough tactics don't bother Aaron Eli either, a former bantamweight MMA fighter who went by the ring name The Cyborg. Eli settled on an IT career after his hip gave out. He limped into the hiring expo last week hoping ICE could use his computer expertise. He said he felt he was no longer able to advance in the private sector because the market is crowded with candidates from India willing to do the work for less. I keep seeing these memes where Indians are bragging about taking our tech jobs, said Eli36. So I said, oh yeah? Well, I'm going to work with these guys that are going to arrest you, slam your face on the pavement, and send you home. What a perfect example of the age-old meme in broad daylight. Capital owners take all of the pie, give you only crumbs if you get it at all, and then turn around and say, you know who's actually taking the rest of this pie? Those goddamn Indians, those goddamn Mexicans. They are the ones who are stealing what you deserve from this big cake that I have in front of me. That's it. Desperate people, angry people, when left with no other alternatives, find themselves slowly but surely moving in the direction of fascism, because fascism offers a sense of comfort that it's not your fault, and it isn't. It is not their fault in many respects. These are structural inefficiencies, structural inequalities created to churn out super profits for are mega corporations owned by people who will never see the factory floor, owned by people who will never understand what your day-to-day existence looks like. And neither side wants to address that real problem, that real structural inequality. So one side turns around and says, everything's fine, actually. Don't worry about it. Things are going to get marginally better. The other side says everything sucks, and it's because of Mexicans. They're stealing your jobs, but they're also lazy at the same time and stealing your welfare too. So a lot of people go, I guess it's the Mexicans. I guess it's the Indians. The labor market is dog shit for everybody. This is the same principle behind like post-NAFTA. A lot of these people, instead of yelling at the people that allowed your jobs to be shipped overseas, yelling at the random undocumented migrants that are also trying to make a living and are in a dire state, much worse than even someone like yourself. It always has been and always will be those who are the powerful that are designing society in this way. It's ridiculous. But unfortunately, it's not even a matter of critical thinking. I think it's weakness ultimately. It's vulnerability, it's insecurity, the assumption that like the hidden underlying fear that you kind of recognize but choose not to communicate, which is that you can't fight the powerful because you're alone. You can't fight the powerful because no one else will fight it with you. It's too hard. So then you choose to redirect that anger towards a group that you can actually affect the lives of in a meaningful way. And that gives you a sense of control. That's what weak bullies do. That's what cowards do. You can extrapolate that to every other aspect of regular day-to-day existence. The leftist, liberal, woke version of this is trying to, sanitize language or something, trying to yell at a Twitch streamer, for example, who is more accessible than your local congressperson. You can't change the system, so you just look for something you can change, no matter how marginal. The right-wing version of this is, of course, infinitely more nefarious and infinitely more violent. And the difference here, of course, is that right parties, reactionary parties, will lean into that. In many circumstances, leaning into that doesn't even harm the hierarchy anyway. Transphobia and transpanic is a great example of this. Vulnerable population, tiny, minuscule percentage of the population becoming the primary villain of modern American society. Get the out of here. You think it's because trans people exist that you can't pay for rent? No. You think it's because trans people exist that you can't get a job? No. Are they taking your jobs? Is that what it is? No. You just don't understand it. You think it's weird. You think it's gross. You think it's scary in some instances. And this administration and many others, historically, they are so ready to vilify this tiny, minuscule percentage of the population and make them out to be the primary villains, the arch villains that dominate your lives. And that's it. And you eat that distraction instantly. It gives you a sense of comfort because deep down inside, you secretly know that it's not actually trans people. It's you're super wealthy. It's the system that was designed to churn out these outcomes. You were simply born into a family that is poor. You were simply born in an area that was underserved. Maybe you were told that you were going to make something of yourself. Maybe you look to your parents and realize that, they worked hard and they were able to at least get a home. Now I can't. Why is that the case? But because a real alternative, a socialist alternative is so far and virtually seen as impossible, if not scary, outright scary, because everyone tells you, these people in positions of power tell you, because they have an obvious interest in making sure that you're fearful of this socialist alternative, that it's actually really bad. It'll be like Russia, the USSR. They'll kill you. You'll starve to death. But you just develop this antagonistic approach to a real alternative that would genuinely improve your life. And in some instances, you think that kind of change is impossible. That kind of change is so far in the distance, and it feels like you're not actually moving in that direction at all. So you choose to make changes so that you can feel powerful in your life again, to have a little bit of control over your own life. And you do that by leaning into a successful movement that does actually target villains and chooses to f their lives up. The right-wing movement does this perfectly with undocumented migrants, trans people, women in general, in terms of bodily autonomy. And you think your life will improve as long as there's someone worse than you. But it doesn't improve your life at all. Maybe your life looks better in comparison to those who are now experiencing unimaginable violence, but it didn't actually improve from, a decade prior. It got worse. And in many circumstances, these fake solutions that these guys provide, like mass deportation, unironically accelerate the worsening of your living conditions.
And even identifying them by name, they're looking up people's license plate numbers. So are you worried about being called a Nazi?
I don't mind risking my freedom to safeguard yours.
ICE has become kind of a really polarizing agency.
This is a father and son.
Yeah, he's really safeguarding my freedoms by deporting a dude who's just trying to feed his family, and also doing it for pennies on the dollar, and feeding our families as a byproduct of that. It's awesome. You really saved us, dude. Cowards, man. Cowards.
It reflects the big divides within America. It's a flashpoint for how people feel about Trump's mass deportation agenda.
But that's where we're at.